Hey everybody, it's your pal in the hobby, Jesse Blueflower, and I'm here with my friend Jake, and he is going to talk about some D&D with me, and it's going to be a great time. I hope you'll stay tuned and watch this video. Hey Jake, will you introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, I am a friend of Jesse's. We've been playing D&D together since I want to say early pandemic, mid-pandemic,
Hmm.
mid 2020-ish.
Yep.
Uh, but I myself have been playing since 2017 or 2018 is when I first started playing D&D. My main campaign that I've been running as a dungeon master has been going on over 7 years now. And I've run a smattering of other little mini campaigns here and there. None of them last very long. Just life gets in the way, as it happens.
That's how it goes.
But just so your audience knows, I am neither a professional nor an expert in rules, no matter what Jesse says.
Who among us is? But Jake does genuinely know the rules quite well, I must say. Of the people I know, he is, I would say, top 5 percentile of rules knowledge. Sometimes though, rules knowledge doesn't make a good player, but Jake is still a good
No.
player because he can role play and doesn't like let the rules like define him, if that makes sense. He doesn't make him a stick in the mud, if that makes sense. Which you should never be a stick in the mud when it comes to rules. DMs sometimes will be like that, and players can sometimes be like that. It doesn't really help. That's kind of going to bring us into the topic here of like table disagreements, hearing out both sides, effective communication, that kind of thing. Jake, do you have any thoughts on like what happens during like table disagreements?
I think that in general, my go-to, and this we can get into more details for sure, but like my go-to is in the moment, the DM can make a call, and as long as they stick to that, whatever it is for the future, so how critical hits work or how potions work or whatever, as long as they stick to that for the future, and that's the rule, that's the rule. But if it's one of those things like, hey, for now, I don't know the answer, we'll go with this. And in the future, if we find out later, we'll look it up or something. But like in the moment, when you whip out the book and you're like, I'm gonna find the rule, just to make a point can really like suck all the energy out of the moment, whether it's combat or a social encounter or even just letting the players role play with each other.
I agree. And a DM usually, if there's some very critical error, can always walk back what kind of transpired and just apologize. And I didn't know, my bad. And that's not always the best thing, but it happens, and most people are pretty cool with that.
Hmm. I agree.
We, at one point, you and I even had a table disagreement, and we managed to
Yeah,
work past it and still
I
play
was
together.
I was pretty sure that almost ruined our friendship.
It seemed like it maybe was at the time, but you know what I think was the key to it was that we both stepped away. We thought about it. We both realized we did enjoy each other's company and presence at the table, and we didn't let anything get between us in that regard.
Right. Right.
Uh,
And actually that what makes me think about the main point that I wanted to talk about with this topic is like I guess it would be the removal of player agency to a degree. Not quite exactly, but kind of. Because as I recall, the moment was we were in a fight and I was up against a wall and you had a NPC enemy, opponent, whatever, jump down and like just pushed me out of the way without rolling any dice or anything. And in the moment, I felt like you were just forcing something to happen. Now, if the character like did a jump down on me attack and did like a shove me out of the way, cool, I can get behind that. Maybe I shove them back and they fall prone or whatever. But just forcing a thing to happen in the moment was very frustrating. But like stepping back and my part of it was the way that I handled it in talking to you was what I definitely did wrong. Like rules regardless, I was very angry with you in the moment and I snapped at you. And if I never said sorry, I am definitely sorry now.
You did, you did. If you didn't say
Okay.
sorry, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. But
Okay. I don't
and
remember if I ever said
I
sorry
accept what
before now.
I don't even have 100% memory of what it was that happened. I do feel as though I did make a mistake because there was a number of things wrong with that whole encounter that I had aligned. I believe it was like some kind of like Coliseum battle tournament type
That
of
sounds
thing.
right. I can't
And
remember for sure either.
if I'm thinking about it, I almost sometimes with me is I will sometimes if bases don't work out properly, I'll like slide people around so I can move miniatures in without realizing that tactically this makes a difference on the table. And I
Right.
think maybe that's what happened. It was something so small like that. Because what I was doing an overhead camera, which was capturing a screen of some miniatures that I
Right.
had. That was how we played D&D. Um, Probably nobody else plays like that, but that's what worked for me because I'm a low tech dungeon master for sure. And it was
Teacher,
pandemic
teacher.
times, so
I
we
do
did what
that.
we did. We did what we did, and we made it work. But I honestly think
Right.
it was something like that. But it just goes to show something as innocent as what I thought I was doing it
Mhm.
affected Jake like that, and it's my own fault because I didn't
Right.
realize it, right? I'm just trying to move, and I'm my philosophy too as a dungeon master is when somebody's measuring out their movement, if if a guy has another half inch that he can move and then he's going to be there, I usually let that slide, but I also give
Right.
that benefit to my monsters. So I kind of I believe it was, but anyway, these are things that I
Right.
should have communicated effectively to Jake prior to all of this. So Jake didn't think that I was taking away
Right.
his player agency because that's one of the worst feelings you can have as a player is somebody being
Right.
like, hand wave, this, you don't have any control over what's happening to your character right now. That feels
Right.
horrible.
If I recall specifically, I had put myself in a spot because I was playing like a healer,
I think
tank,
so.
life domain cleric. That like I put myself in a spot specifically to help either pin an enemy in or to block them from reaching the rest of my party. And then you just shoved a guy in there. I'm like, whoa, I was doing something tactical,
Yep.
and now my tactic no longer applies. And in the moment, I got very frustrated and I lashed out, and that was not okay. I think rules aside and everything, talking in a calm and clear way is the best way to try to solve a dispute. And if that can't happen in the moment, it's like, okay, let's take a break, step away. I'm going to go get a drink of water or walk around the block or whatever it
Hmm.
takes, depending on if you're in person or over Discord. Taking a moment to pause, to take a breath, to readjust your emotions in the moment is important because in that moment, rather than lashing out at you and having you just ditch the call and it just ended the session like it did and nearly ended our friendship, I think if I had just stopped and taken a breath and been like, Jesse, I don't agree with what just happened and I would like to discuss it in a calm manner,
Hmm.
right? And I don't know. It's hard to do when your emotions are just running, you know?
Exactly. In the middle of combat, emotions are high, and that's just how it is. No, I totally
And
get
it's
it.
true.
Taking away somebody's agency, it'll immediately kind of invokes that emotional response in one anyway. Like, um,
It's almost like this is my character. I must
yeah,
protect them. And then
exactly,
you're like attacking my child.
exactly. No, I get it. Yeah, 100%. I 100% get that. It feels bad. It feels bad. All right. Well, I think we probably can move
I
on from that topic. Or you want one more
a
point?
little bit of
Okay.
a little bit of a segue actually.
Yep. Yep.
We talking just now about players and DMs, but like player to player, I played at a store one time that so barbarian is by far my favorite class. I like being able to turn my brain off. Just it's like 3 hours a week. I turn my brain off and don't think. Right? It's fun to be a barbarian. And I played at a store, and another player was playing a barbarian, and they didn't understand how barbarians worked. and I pointed out the mistake they were making, and they got all defensive about it, and I didn't really understand why they were being defensive about it because I was helping them do better because they didn't understand how reckless attack work, which is like the number one thing barbarians do, right? They thought it was advantage to one attack in the turn, not all the attacks in a turn. And I pointed that out, and they got all butthurt about me trying to explain the rules, like almost like a mansplaination. Is that the word? Mansplain. I was
Mansplaining, yeah.
mansplaining it to them, even though they were another guy. Um, Not that I want to, assign gender to them or whatever. They presented male. Uh, but like in player to player disputes, it's also important to take that breath, but the DM kind of needs to play a little bit of referee, you know,
Sometimes. They do- well,
sometimes.
yeah, sometimes absolutely all the time actually if I'm really thinking about it. In that instance like um giving somebody advice about on their player is or on their character is kind of like uh walking like a razor's edge almost in a way because
Mhm.
people have different reasons for playing their characters how they do. Um I almost want to feel like I would ask the person if they want something in regards to help with their player or their character. I keep saying player, but
Right.
character. I'd be like, "Oh, do you want some unsolicited advice on your play style here for your barbarian? Because there's some things you can be a little more. I can get you a little more synergy here, or unless you are intentionally playing like yeah, I believe when I played Barbarian the very first time, I had no idea about anything either. But and reckless attack seems like a bad thing when you're first playing it because you're like, wait, they get advantage on me after, and you get scared. But then you realize clearly the best defense is a good offense. So
Right.
if you
I
kill the
mean,
thing, it can't hit you back.
do you remember Varinia? I was doing
Yes,
like
I
20
do.
some odd damage a
Yeah.
turn. And reckless attack helps with that because it's like there's so many things you can stack that it's like, oh yeah, I can just stack these things together and hit hard. And it's like Barbarian Rage is like super strong defensively, like get resistance to bludgeon piercing and slashing. That who cares if they get to hit you with advantage? They're doing half damage from almost all attacks.
Yep.
It's like, oh, they got poison on their bite or whatever, but like, okay. I got a D12 hit die. I got crap tons of hit points. I'm
Yep.
focusing on constitution and strength. Like that's the main thing.
Yep. And it's your
So,
job. It's your role in the party.
right. And I think jumping back a little bit, when instead of doing it mid session like I did, I probably should have waited until after the session, be like, hey, just so you know, yada yada yada, whatever the thing is, about whatever the rules are, rather than trying to whip out the book and suck all the energy out of the moment, you know?
Yeah,
Which is something I've come to learn. Like, unless it's like dire important that we need to know the ruling right now, like it'll
exactly.
make or break things. Like, it's the difference between a TPK and a fun time. Like, okay, maybe we'll whip out the book and look it up.
But there's different levels of importance, like knowing how many gold pieces the diamond has to be worth to cast resurrection. But these are things you would usually look up in before a session because you'd be doing it
Yeah,
in prep. Even as a player, if you plan on casting that spell, I think you should look up the necessary components to be able to say that to your DM. I think that's part of good player homework, which players should do. I think they should also sometimes randomly feed their DM like motivations of their players as they go. I always
right,
it helps me do my job as a dungeon master when my players are really excited about their character and will just be like, "Oh, I thought of this thing that changed my motivation," and just private message the dungeon master. They always feel pretty excited about that. But
right. I think I think that's a good point with like players need to do their homework about their class and their character and stuff. So like knowing what your spells do, knowing what your abilities do is very important as a player And if you're like, hey, this thing is worded this way, I need to know that. Like knowing that hold person only works on humanoids, that's important. I, as a dungeon master, understand that you have a life. You're not your character. And our sessions are weeks apart where it's like, hey, did you take good notes or not? Right. So one of the things I do, and I started doing this because my sister's got 5 kids, but she's the rogue in my main campaign. She doesn't remember everything that's going on in the campaign because she has a life. She has 5 children that, take a lot of her time and emotional energy and stuff. So what I do is if I remember a thing, you, the player, roll an intelligence check. Oh, you rolled high? Let me help you. But she's also playing a halfling, which I've played at tables where like people ban Dragonborn or they ban everything not in the player's handbook or they ban, just for whatever lore reasons or whatever. But like I've never had the thought about like banning a race, right? And it's like the one race that I would potentially ban as a dungeon master at my table, halflings. Oh, they are so infuriating.
Not
I
me.
never roll a nat one.
I
Ugh.
Oh yeah, you're the halfling hater. I forgot. No, I
Yeah.
love my halfling. He's great.
No, no, like don't get me wrong. I love the idea of playing a halfling and stuff, but like the dice rolls really help tell the story. I've had dice rolls where it's like, oh, this is a really hard check, and they roll really bad and they fail. And narratively, it does so much more for them to fail than if they had some.
But that's just it. That still does the narrative. Halfling luck is what gets them through that hard point. So that becomes
That's
a
true.
success, right?
That's true.
Usually. I believe on the
Usually.
actual failure, if you re-roll and you get a nat 1, that you have to accept that.
Yes, you have to accept
However
that.
rare that is, you do have to accept that. So there is a chance of still failing. It's just a lot less, and that's halfling luck in a
Right.
nutshell.
No, and I agree, but it's just there have been times where as a DM where it's like, hey, I this narrative that I'm telling, oh, if they failed right here, I could do this thing if they fail, and then they just can't fail.
Yeah, but
It's like,
that's
oh
with
yeah,
critical fail, they can't fail. If they roll a 2, they're stuck with the 2, right?
right. But even so, with the two, on anything dexterity or wisdom based, like the things that like as an insightful or inquisitive rogue, her main things are wisdom and dexterity. So she's really good at stealth, really good at sleight of hand, really good at perception, really good at insight. So the handful of things that it's like, oh, if she could just fail to see the thing happening, or she could
Yeah.
fail to sneak around, like, oh, if she got caught right now, that would be so good for the narrative. She can't. She can't get caught because she gets a plus freaking 13 to everything.
Yeah. Yeah. That
I mean,
reliable talent is pretty crazy.
yeah. Well, she actually is a multi-class with the
It's like an
homebrew
efficiency thing too. You
class.
can choose multiple or proficiencies rather. I think
Right.
you can
Well,
add more proficiencies to rogues or something, I think it is.
so of all the classes, rogues get 4 from their level 1 starting out, which is more than any other class. They also get expertise at level 1. So at level 1, you could get stealth and expertise in stealth, which at level 1 is only an additional +4, but depending on how you do stats, that could actually be a +8 or +9 at level 1,
It is insane.
which is a lot at
Yeah.
level 1.
Yes, it is.
Because most creatures that you're running into at level 1 have a passive perception of like maybe 11 or 12. Uh, but no, with table rules and stuff, it's like it's always fun to modify things or like things that aren't necessarily covered in the rules, like blending in with the crowd. What kind of a skill check would you ask for, Jesse? If I was like, oh, I want to blend into the crowd, what skill check is that?
I'd probably say a general charisma.
You think of charisma?
Yeah.
I actually utilize performance.
I
You're
sometimes
trying to you're trying to
well
it's the
that's
opposite of
charisma.
stealth. You're so stealth is I don't want somebody to see me. And then oh, I need to blend in.
Yeah,
I need to act like I belong. It's a
exactly.
performance. It's like, oh, I'm gonna lean against the wall and act like I'm watching the guy doing the juggling, whatever, right? Even though I'm actually spying on the noble lord climbing into his carriage, or whatever.
I like when I let the players choose within reason what role they want to like if they can justify using investigation to blend into a crowd, I'm willing to hear it and give it a shot, if they're willing to, because I could see an argument for it. Um,
I mean, that's fair.
and the thing is I can adjust the difficulty. I'm the dungeon master, right?
Right,
So anything can be
right,
adjusted for what the characters say. And sometimes they have these absolutely insane ideas that are going to be extremely difficult to throw to do to go through, and they're going to absolutely get in big trouble because they're gonna get caught because their idea is just
right,
a bad one, but you can just kind of sit back as the ninja master and say, okay, yeah,
right. I mean, that's also like when players are like, "Hey, can I have advantage for this, that, or the other reason?" And it's like sometimes I'll be like, "Yeah, that makes sense. You can have
yeah,
advantage."
I agree.
But then other times I'll be like, "Hey, I'm already taking into account some other factors that are modulating the difficulty of the check."
Yeah.
Right? So like just recently, the paladin of my campaign was having a confrontation with a rival NPC that he was trying to be like open and forthwith with this guy in this parlay before combat might start.
Hmm.
And so what the paladin does is he casts Zone of Truth
Hmm.
that they can stand in to be honest with each other. And he just like, hey, here's all the things I'm laying out for you. And the other guy, like I asked the paladin for persuasion. He's like, oh, do I get advantage because it's Zone of Truth? I'm like, count Zone of Truth. That this guy knows that you are being 100% honest at this stage. You don't get advantage. It already is applying in a way, you know?
Hmm. A lot of times I find I'll even just be the one to tell my players that they get advantage on something. They won't even
Right.
be
No,
the one
I
asking, and I'll even consider myself, they should probably get advantage for this, and I'll give it to them. I think a lot of players
right.
or a lot of DMs need to do that because you're not there to punish players. You're there to tell something really interesting. And if you want them to
I
succeed, give them advantage, and
right.
they will. All right. Shall we move on to a different subject? I have one thing I wanted to ask you about
Absolutely.
because I saw a video about it and I don't think we've ever had it at our table other than like a bit of like flirtations, but there was a Ginny D video that came out the other day and it was talking about romance at the table. And I was like, "Oh, I've never really seen romance at the table as other than like watching Critical Role or something, you know what I mean, where those people are
Right.
professionals and the course they are all about that. But
Right.
I've never seen romance ever done at a table. I've never seen players comfortable with romance at the table. I've seen players pick up like a server at a tavern, and then it's just like a charisma check and fade to black type of deal. Because I don't believe in that having anything beyond that illustrated at the table for anybody. It's not right.
Right.
Um,
I'm sure some tables are more about the romance stuff and other tables aren't. The way that I handle it, if you don't mind me explaining,
Absolutely.
is I personally, the part of your brain that's like feels shame, I can turn that off. I can just straight up turn off the shame center of my brain. Thanks to the Navy. Hiya. Uh but like I tell my players, I am willing to go as far into this description role play as you're willing to go. So when you're done, fade to black, roll a check. It's fun to add extra stuff or come up with extra ramped up versions of the monsters. So like, oh, it's a gelatinous cube, but it's a special variant of gelatinous cube that has these special extra things, so like extra HP or toughness or something.
I agree. Mess with the monsters. I generally don't
Right.
add HP, but well, actually,
Oh,
I do. I do a lot to be honest. But I try to keep it. I try to at first, if I, I'm explaining this in a really roundabout way, but
Go ahead.
I try to
I'm
first
listening.
make the monster stronger and hit harder. Then have more hit points because I don't want the fight to be a slog fest. But at the
Right.
same time, I don't always adhere to my hit points anyway. Sometimes I just go by how many rounds of combat, and if it starts to feel a bit sloggy, the monster starts looking weaker. And it's very much like not a set place of my monsters.
Right.
So, and I very
Right.
much like to reward a player that I feel um in the combat maybe utilize the most um, creative thinking, and we'll try to
Mhm.
get them the kill. Or alternatively, if somebody hasn't had a good kill and I'm trying to keep it even, I try to let somebody else who hasn't had a good like boss kill get the final blow on a monster. And
Mhm.
because I feel like everybody kind of needs their moment of heroic intervention and heroic actions and stuff like that. So as the dungeon master, I control the hit points and I control the dice rolls. And yeah, I'm 100% fine with changing anything and all of it at any time for an enhanced moment, whether that be for me, against me, or whatever. I maintain that that's my power. Everything's in secrecy, with the odd exception. I will like to do some rolls in public just to build tension, because I think that's
Right.
great too.
As far as the health, I like to hand out magic items. So my players, even without the magic items, paladins and rogues can hit awfully hard.
Yeah,
And when your boss monster's only got 200 health and the party takes that out in like a round or two, like that doesn't really feel like a boss,
yeah,
right? But like ramping up the damage is like at higher levels, rolling to hit isn't as big of a hurdle when every monster is getting, plus 10, plus 12, plus 14 to hit,
yeah,
and the party still only can max out at like maybe 22 armor, right?
yeah.
So if I get a plus 10 and you got a 22, I only need a 12 or better to hit, which means I'm hitting, what is that, 40% of the time?
Maybe I don't know
Something like
math,
that?
man. I
Uh,
don't know. But
I'm hitting
you
40% of
see,
the time.
you can also use your layer though, Jake. Like let's say for instance, a lot of people
What
don't.
if you're not in a lair?
Well, then you're not using your monster effectively. For instance, I want to tell you about an encounter that I ran recently in person with
Mhm.
a low level party. There was two level threes. Unfortunately, I had a bunch of people who couldn't make it, and they were going to kill a wormling. Now, a wormling, two of them, even at level three, could probably take out a wormling. Not the most powerful creature, but because there was a bunch of combats that were happening before they entered the wormling's lair, the wormling was well aware that they were going to be entering its chamber. So it perched itself above the opening where it knew these people were going to be and had a sneak attack on them. Not like a roguish sneak attack, but in flavor only. As soon as somebody poked their head into this room, boom, the dragon's clamping down on them with advantage. Because and that was how I started the combat. I got my dragon
Right.
to take out half that guy's hit points without him even realizing, and they were running. Encounter, they ran from that wormling partly because they just couldn't roll at all. It was just a poopy roll day. Is I tried hard to
Right.
make them anytime they could have done anything to possibly hurt the dragon a bit more, the wormling. I was like, oh, you could try this thing, you could do this thing, and the just rolls weren't cooperating that day. But that was a fun encounter.
Right. No, I totally understand if the monster's in their home base, but I recently ran an encounter. I mentioned it earlier.
Mhm.
The paladin and his rifle. The rifle was a Fey warlock with the Lord of the Hunt being his patron. And in this encounter, the Lord of the Hunt was physically there at this confrontation. And I made him be like this mysterious presence back in the woods while they're talking. And he takes control of the warlock and forces the warlock to fight them. And um, the thing is that as the book states, it's a third party book. The Lord of the Hunt only has like 220 hit points, I think, something like that. But my party, like the barbarian in like one turn with two attacks did 43 damage
Mm.
with two attacks. which is a fifth of the guy's health. It's like, okay, it's only part of the party. It's 4 players out of the
Hmm.
6 or 7 that I have in the party. They could have taken out his like all his health in 1 round of combat, like 1 round of attacks. Paladin dumping all his divine smites, flurry of blows because he's got 3 levels of monk, right? They could have just blasted this guy out of the water. So what I didn't change his attacks or whatever. He's doing decent damage to the party.
Hmm.
The paladin got all the way down, I think, like 8 health. He said
Hmm.
before they resurrected him, or brought him back up. No, he actually got knocked out. The paladin got fully all the way down to 0 health. And then I think the barbarian got all the way down to like 17 or something like that
Hmm.
with while raging. Uh but what I do is I take the numbers that it says like, oh, roll these dice to determine hit points. I just maximize those for all my enemy
Mm.
because the party can just hit so hard
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they're using such great utility. Like when the bard's there, he's like, oh, bardic inspiration, bardic inspiration, bardic inspiration,
Mm.
everywhere. And the wizard's like, oh, here's some support spells like haste. They're doing such great teamwork that allows them to hit so hard that if it's just like, okay, everything you is a freaking scarecrow that you can just push over, that leads to unearned godhood.
But you
Where the
can tap away some of those resources initially with some smaller encounters before they get to the boss too, right?
That's
I
true.
do
You
try to
totally
soften
can.
them up as you say, as you would say, before they get to actually fight the boss. Some mindless horde monsters that they can deal with that are gonna burn a bunch of again, tightly pack a bunch of skeletons together, tempt them to cast fireball on like a perfect, skeletons don't mean anything to you. You're the dungeon master. You can just make
Right.
more. You can make more skeletons.
You're right. But I also like to have spells like Fireball interact environmentally as well, where it's like, oh, are you going to cast Fireball in this confined space? Oh, that sucks up all the oxygen. There's a
Well,
chance that that could hurt
yes.
you.
Have them burn their resources and hurt themselves. Even
Right.
better.
Oh, I had it where they I forget what this I think it was Shatter. The bard cast Shatter in this it was effectively a lava tube. So it's like the walls are made out of obsidian and
Yep.
cast Shatter to hit multiple enemies. I'm like, "Oh, that's going to
Oh,
hurt the walls."
yeah.
And now there's shards of obsidian flying through the air.
Wow.
And it's like blam.
And a whole new environmental concern arises right before you. Something you
Right.
probably didn't even consider as a dungeon master, or maybe you did. Maybe you did.
No, in the moment I didn't even think about it, and
No.
that's one of the things is like when it comes to crafting a story as a dungeon master, it's like, okay, I've got these points that I need players to hit,
Mhm.
right?
All right.
Okay.
Well, I think we've been talking a long time now, so maybe we should wrap it up. Have some final thoughts, and I'll try to organize all of this into a coherent video for our viewers, because we've gone a lot of different topics, so um,
Right, we kind of been very
all over the
tangential, which
place.
is
So
how
we'll see.
conversations.
It's a
I
conversation.
think okay, final thoughts.
Yeah.
I think the main final thought is open communication between players,
Hmm.
player to player, and player to DM is important. Whether it's about the DM's wants and rules for the table, what players want for their characters, whether where it involves like romance or various types of plots kind of thing, because it's like I've had players where they just want to roll dice and things. They don't care about story at all. They don't care about any world building. They just want to kill monsters, and that's okay.
That is okay. One
But
thing too.
but it's like as long as it is openly communicated. Because if I come in, I'm on to tell this epic Lord of the Rings esque story, and they just want to sit in the cave and bash goblins, we need to know that
Mhm.
beforehand. So if they just want to, okay, we're gonna drink a few beers and we're gonna roll some dice and we're gonna make a bunch of jokes, cool. As
Yep.
long as that is what's communicated.
Yep.
Communication is key.
Communication is key. But I think there's not always a lot of talks, and I know I said I was going to end this video, but there's not always a lot of talk on like people are like, "Oh, communicate, communicate," right? But it's like,
Right.
well, what is effective communication? Because recently myself, I ran a bit of a like one shot, which turned into a two shot recently with some newer players, and I had a young fellow at the table who was very enthusiastic, a little bit boisterous, and maybe a little bit obnoxious, uh, and maybe a little bit distracted at times as well. And I wanted to convey this to another player at the table, who happened to be the father of the boy. And I did so in a manner that wasn't a great way. I over communicated. I said way too much, and it was misinterpreted. And reviewing it myself, I 100% agree with why he interpreted how he did. Even though my intention was sincere, it came across very rudely, and yeah, and it should have been. It was rude, and I realized, man, I had to apologize to this guy. So one thing to really think about too is the words you choose to use when you need to deliver some hard truth to somebody. Because even if somebody may be making some grave mistakes at your table, choosing effective language to not upset them can be important, because they might not know what they're doing is causing this issue at your table. So it's important to treat others with respect as well. Though I assume
Right.
everybody would, like Jake, of course, would too. We've all learned our lessons and everything like that. But there is, and over text as well, um, there can be like almost a disconnect and a lack of like the emotion behind it. So you can
Right.
interpret something as almost sarcastic when the meaning isn't. Um, so it's important to make sure that people aren't like that. That you're open to questions as well as feedback, as well as
Mm.
everything, as long as it's in the realm of being creative or constructive, rather. Yeah. Anyway.
Right. I think because it's something I struggle with sometimes is the proper tone. Like your tone
Yes.
of voice. Like, "Oh, am I angry?" Brr, or sad or happy or whatever. So when you are trying to, I'm going to put it in quotes, correct a behavior at your table that either is distracting or detracting from the fun, it is important that you choose the right words but also have the right tone. And I understand that people say communicate, communicate, but never really explain how to.
Yes.
I think that that varies per table though, because when I want to talk to my sister as one of my players about something that's happening, I have to use different words and word choice and tone than when I talk to my friend who's playing the wizard in my campaign, you
Yeah.
know? And it's completely different how I have to talk to them about what's going on. And I think it's important for if it's somebody you don't know or don't know very well that you're like joining their table, like playing at a local game store or something,
Hmm.
it's important as a player to understand that the dungeon master, for instance, is doing something out of the kindness of their heart, or you're paying them. Why waste their time by being distracting and stuff? And I understand with younger people, whether they're teenagers or kids or whoever, that it can be hard to not be distracted by things. But if you don't want to be there, just don't play Dungeons and Dragons. You know, like I've had that conversation with my cousin because he was playing in my campaign that ended up. It's like I told him, it's like, hey, if Dungeons and Dragons is not fun for you, you don't have to play. You're not
Yeah.
going to upset my feelings by not playing.
And for
You
me,
are going to upset my feelings if you're saying you're going to play and then just don't show up.
yeah,
That
100%.
hurts my feelings.
Mm. For me, it was like almost like a play style difference, where his place, because he'd played previous games, um, and the play style was a little bit more unstructured than I was used to. So it
Mhm.
was it was more of that. I thought I actually have a very loosely structured style to my dungeon mastering, but it was even looser than what I was used to. and so there was a bit of a disconnect in that regard. So yeah, but nonetheless, luckily I apologized because that's the biggest thing you can do. I think is
Right.
like it's just apologize. Don't like it makes you a big person to apologize. It makes you a small person to sit there and act like you've done nothing wrong when you clearly have. And if you upset somebody, it doesn't matter if you intended to or not. If you upset them, in my opinion, you should apologize. And I upset them. I didn't mean to, but I
Right.
did. And looking back on it, I understand why I did. So yeah.
Right.
Anyway,
And I agree. Just don't do the Canadian thing where you're apologizing for everything.
I can't help it. It's sorry. Sorry is just like how we do when we're Canadian. We just say sorry for everything. I think there's some law that got passed in Canada too, where if you say sorry, it's not like an admission of guilt. If you like get in a car
Oh,
accident
yeah,
or
I
something,
heard about that
yeah,
too.
which is hilarious and super Canadian. It's just like admission of empathy, right? Like I'm sorry that you flew through your windshield and ended up on the sidewalk. Like that sucks.
That is so just like way like, oh, fender bender, I'm sorry, versus, oh, you got ejected from your car.
I'm standing over their mangled corpse, apologizing for their broken body.
Yes, but your apologizing
But
can't
I'm
be
saying I'm
held.
sorry.
It's
Yeah,
not an admission of guilt.
exactly.
But I agree with you. If you upset somebody at the table, maybe not necessarily right away in the moment if emotions are high, but take a breath. And
Mm,
if you think about it, it's like, hey, I didn't handle that well. I apologize. Right?
mhm,
And you don't necessarily need to throw any buts or ands and even so's or however, whatever.
mhm,
Apologize if you handle a situation wrong.
mhm. I agree.
I'm gonna say a however and a but right here, but like, but the other person also needs to recognize, did they handle the situation well? Were they being obnoxious or belligerent or distracting or whatever the situation may
Yeah,
be? I've had a player where he's so obsessed with basketball and football that during basketball and football season, he's sitting there watching his phone with an earbud in while we're doing D&D, and it's like, dude, just put your phone away for 3 hours. It's
yeah.
not that big of a
You can
deal to
record the
not
game,
watch baseball or football
and you
for
can record it.
3 hours. You can record it, you can watch it back. He's like, "But I need to talk to my brother about it right away," and it's like, "Okay, then don't play D&D. If it's
Exactly,
that much of an issue, just don't play D&D.
exactly.
I'm sad that you don't wanna spend the time with me as my friend,
I've had a
but,
player
like."
step away from my table because of that reason, because he blamed his attention deficit issues and said he couldn't keep his phone away and he felt bad. He apologized, didn't think it was respectful, but he didn't think he could actually keep his phone away. So he withdrew from my game. And I was actually a little bit choked because I genuinely liked the guy. Like I wanted him to play at my table. Um, and I was almost forgiving of the phone thing, but not quite. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Right, but
he wasn't
his
disturbing
his
anybody, but he wasn't paying attention. You know what I mean?
right, but his way that he handled it was, I think, the appropriate adult thing to do.
100%.
I can't handle not being distracted by my phone, therefore, I will do the adult thing and
Yep.
I'm gonna not play D&D so that I'm not detracting from
Yep.
other people's fun.
I would have liked if he would
Like,
have given another chance, but it's his call. I can't do anything.
right.
Work on it. It's something you can work on. You can work on building your attention span. Get a fidget spinner because spinning a little fidget spinner or having something that doesn't make any noise in your hand is something that you can do. Yeah, dice.
I
Stack your
literally keep
dice.
this
Stack your
I
dice
keep
while you're
this
listening to me. Fine, that's
I keep
cool.
this little metal D20. It sits on my desk.
Yep.
I mean, I use it sometimes when we
I
play online, but like I'll sit here and I'll spin it, I'll roll it, I'll play around with this D20 on my desk while or playing a
Yep.
game or whatever. Or sometimes when we're playing D&D, I just sit here and I'll play with it while I'm listening to you guys talk.
Exactly.
You know, and my phone, this whole conversation, my phone's been on my desk. I haven't looked at it once.
Well,
I mean,
this
I've
is
looked at it, but I haven't turned on the screen.
this is riveting conversation, Jake. Why would you? I haven't looked at my phone either.
No, and that's the thing is like I'm engaged.
Exactly.
I enjoy talking to you.
That's how you know a good dungeon master. That's why it's a bit insulting when you see somebody on your phone at the table. It's almost like, "Am I
Oh,
not entertaining you?
oh,
What have I
it
done?"
it it hurts me. Like if you're actively looking up a spell, or you're like, hey, I don't understand what this means, and you don't want to like interrupt the story beat moment, so you're looking up the rules, or that doesn't necessarily hurt me. But if
No,
you're on your phone watching sports ball, or freaking
Instagram.
some TV show, like you're watching Fallout on Amazon Prime. Not to say that it's a bad show, but if you're doing that during D&D, like that
It's
hurts.
pretty uncool, yeah.
Like not a lot hurts my feelings, but when you're doing something like that while we're at the table, that hurts, and like it's just frustrating.
It hurts. I mean, that's something I'd be willing to forgive once. You know, there everyone's like, "Oh, 3 strikes, 3 strikes." No, some things get 1 strike, some things get 0 strikes in a sense that once they're happening, you should cut them off right away and send that person away from your table right away as well. Yeah.
Right.
But
If we're having a 3-hour session, you're gonna spend all 3 hours of that on your phone.
yeah.
Even when I ask you to put away, you put it away for 5 minutes and pull it out again five
Yeah.
minutes later.
I'd probably ask you at the end or between sessions to
Right.
not come.
And
Eh,
I didn't ask him to not come. I did make it during D&D session time. Just like, just put your phone away
mm,
for that time. He's like, oh, but I listen to you. It's like, you don't. Yes, you only have one earbud in to listen to the game, but like you're not actually fully paying attention to what's
mhm.
happening at the table. And it's just it is very frustrating as a dungeon master when I'm trying to share this narrative with the players and they don't want to hear it.
When you spend hours working on something and
Oh, jeez.
yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. But yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, maybe
there's
maybe
a
we
lot of times at work where I just turn my brain off for what I'm doing. Like it's
mhm.
mind numbing, so I just think about my campaigns
Yeah,
stuff.
that's what I do a lot of times too.
Yeah.
You never know when inspiration can hit you. All right. Well, Jake, you have joined me for my very first. I don't even know what I'm going to name this thing. I got to think of something really interesting and cool, and name it that. And I'll likely invite you again, or maybe you'll be the actual co-host. I don't know. It's in its infancy, so we'll see. But I hope everybody at home you got something out of this because I enjoy doing it with Jake because he is a fountain of knowledge and my friend. And yeah, so thanks so much everybody for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe and to like and to drop a comment. And if you have something for you want to ask Jake, you can just leave a comment, and I'm sure he'll be like studying those comments and answer your questions probably because I
No,
just
no,
volunteered him to do that now. Yeah,
I
his
got a
secretary will
secretary
do it.
named Jesse.
Oh, well, I'd have to consult you anyway. I wouldn't want to misrepresent you, but yeah. Anyway, all
All
right.
right, just so you know, I think if you want to do a series title within your channel, we could just call it Table Talk.
Table talk. I hope that almost sounds like it's so good that I am almost would think that somebody already has that. But
Oh, I'm sure there's like a
we'll
dozen channels
table it.
that do. Ah, I see what you did there.
I know. I'm sorry, everybody. Okay. Well, again, thank
I
you,
am a big fan. I am a big fan of puns.
Me
Keep them
too.
coming.
All right. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Jake. Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah,
Have a good day. Take it easy.
yeah. Have a good night too.